Hello, my loves. It's me. I'm back again. I just wanted to pop on and share another message that came through from the guides today as I was sitting in the waiting room of my eye doctor's office. So, if you happen to be catching this and you don't know who I am Johanna Burkhart. I am a multidimensional teacher, healer, author. I wear many hats. My goal is to help you get from where you are to where you want to be, and we do that through clearing your channel. So I just wanted to pop on and say hello. I wanted to share. I have a personal share, but I also wanted to share a message that was coming through from my guides, from the guides. I'm trying to stop saying my guides because they're everybody's guides. They're just the guides. So I was sitting in my doctor's office today, my eye doctor. I hadn't had an eye exam in probably 3.5 years. And I have a really strong prescription. I have a very noticeable stigmatism. Even the outside shape of my eye is noticeably different. It actually has been something that has bothered me most of my life because it makes wearing makeup difficult. It makes wearing eyelashes difficult because it's not symmetrical. It's not the same. So I've just learned to work with it, but I was going in today and my guides were talking to me about the beliefs around stigmatisms and the beliefs around eye health and what it means spirit, metaphysically, to have a stigmatism, and what that's really a life lesson for me to learn. The same way if you're farsighted or nearsighted, there's a reason why you were born with that structure or for that to happen in your blueprint. There is a spiritual learning for you to do within that. Everything is energy, everything is related, everything has meaning. It's just a matter of understanding it at a bigger awareness. And so we were just chatting back and forth, and the eye doctor comes in and he does his exam and he's like, "Oh wow, your prescription really hasn't changed in 3.5 years. Like for your age, that's weird. That's weird that should have changed. It should have gotten worse." And he said, in a couple of years, you're going to need readers or bifocals. And I'm like, can I ask why? Why am I going to need those in a couple of years? Because my guides told me to question everything, and not just with the eye doctor. And so we'll get into the bigger message in a minute. But they said to question everything. So I did. I questioned him, and I said, why in a couple of years? Tell me why in a couple of years I'm going to need bifocals or I'm going to need readers. And he said, because it's an age thing. And every time you get to a certain age, something happens in your eye, and it's just statistical, and it happens to everybody. And I said, I don't subscribe. I don't subscribe to that belief. And he just kind of looked at me and he asked what I did for a living. And I told him, see, here's the thing. I'm not going to impose my belief system on you. I'm not going to oppose the higher knowing on you if you're not ready for it. So if he asked the question, I knew he was ready for a certain level of that answer. And I said to him, well, what you believe will be. What you believe will be. And I said, there was a time in our evolution where our bodies lived for 900 years. But for some reason, in this incarnation and this go around, people have this belief that we age and get older and things begin to break down. We are moving away from this. This is something that won't be a thing for the next generations to come, right? So the children that are being born right now, their life's going to be, their bodies are going to be way different. That's why our bodies are ascending. They're going from carbon to crystalline. They're going back to a crystalline structure that can change form very easily and very quickly based upon your frequency. And that's something that we all need to really hear and listen to, because when you have a cold, it's not just a cold. When you have an allergy, it's not just an allergy. Maybe it's a pressure change in the environment. Maybe you're clearing something in your third eye. There's always another meaning for it besides what we believe. And so I told him, I said, what you believe will be, and I don't subscribe that as I get older that my body's going to wrinkle and break down and things are going to go wrong. And he said, well, I have to go by statistical data. And I said, for a doctor. And I said, I understand that. And I'm not arguing with you. I'm just letting you know that if the majority of the population, right? If we go back to what yesterday's on my webcast, what I shared about yesterday, every cell in your body is an aspect of self. And so if enough of those aspects of self come together, they create its own consciousness. And there's going to be a belief, a frequency. There's going to be a certain set of standards that come with that consciousness. Can that be changed? Of course. But again, you have to get the majority of the cells on board. You have to get the majority of the aspects on board. That's why we're going through this great awakening, right? It's a giant shift. And the more people wake up and the more people open their mind that they should be questioning everything and deciding for themselves and learning that a belief is just a belief and it can be changed, that there isn't a set of rules on the human body or on anything, to be honest, besides universal law. And I told them, I said, there was a time when our bodies lived for 900 years. I just think that, that's a belief. And I understand you're going by statistical data, but if the majority of the population believes that, then of course your data is going to show that. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? You're right. He said, I believe you. Like, I agree with you. But I think it was twofold. The nurse that was in there, the assistant, I think I planted some big seeds because I was open and choose not to hide my light and not to hide who I am, because she didn't say a word. Her mouth was open like, I've never heard this kind of information before. And that's awesome, because that means I planted my seeds that will now begin to germinate within her and open her mind to new things. But for the doctor, I think it changed his language a little bit, because maybe now he won't automatically tell people that at age 44 or 45, they're going to need readers or they're going to need this to happen. Because he couldn't really tell me why at a certain number, the body clock decides to break those muscles down and for them to not work. He couldn't prove it to me. So if you can't prove it to me, right, then that means there are lots of potentials available and I get to choose what potential is for me. And so the greater message as I left the doctor's office and was chatting with the guides about it was that we're coming into a time, we're already in that time, but we're coming into a time where everybody needs to question everything. You can question what I tell you. You can question what other spiritual teachers tell you. You can question what the government's telling you. You can question everything. You can even question the own negative thoughts you have in your mind. But people think as a collective, there's a collective out there that believes that after the election is over, everything's going to go back to normal, that COVID's going to go away, that things are going to just springboard and be back and better. And while I do feel like better things are on the horizon, I know what way we're going, there is still a lot of stuff that has to break down. There is still a lot of deconstructing that needs to happen. And that's going to happen over the next 2 years, right? A big portion of that's going to happen in 2021. It's going to be the year of disclosure and where we're going to learn some really hard truths to digest because we've been lied to and sheltered for so long on some things. And that in itself is going to shake people. But that's why this big, great activation that's coming that I talked about in my energy update for October is such an important time. It's not one date. There's a lot of people out there saying just on 12/21, there's this big thing that's going to happen. As I mentioned yesterday, that big thing is just the alignment. It is just the portal opening pathway to allow for certain light codes and certain energies to begin flowing in to our plane of existence. And that is going to show up differently for everybody. Some people are going to have massive Kundalini awakenings where in seconds they are a completely different person. There's going to be some that will begin their awakening journey and it will be a little bit slower than others. And there'll be some that are just going to be seated. It's happening to us. That's why this year everybody feels such a heavy sense of grief, because literally the old ways of being and the old ways of doing things are no longer there. And so we're grieving those aspects of ourself that always believed this or always thought this or always depended on this. And so the overall message today is question everything. Don't just accept things blindly like this is just what happens when you get old. This is just what happens when I eat this. This is just what happens when I go to this store. This is just what happens when I put myself out there, when I speak my truth. Question everything. It doesn't mean you have to argue with the person. It doesn't mean you're there to prove your point. But when we question, when we use the energy of inquiry to open up the mind and say, why do we do it that way? Why do you do it that way? Like, where's your evidence that that's actually serving you? Or where's the evidence that that belief system is the only truth? Right? So question everything, my loves. From this moment on, if you haven't been doing it already, don't blindly take anything as truth. My guides always say, not everything is true, but there is truth in everything. And that's something that's really important to remember, because truth is subjective, right? Your truth is going to be different than my truth, because the same stream of consciousness that's flowing through me is also flowing through you, except our lenses are different. Some are dirtier than others, filled with trauma and pains and limiting beliefs and fears. Some are clearer than others, of people who have really done the work, right? Some are very narrow because they're still very asleep and closed-minded. Some are very wide and can handle more information, right? Because vibration is not your frequency of your mood. When people say low vibe, that means you're processing a very small amount of information, because vibration is the rate of speed of which you process information. Your frequency is your mood. Are you in a high frequency or are you in a low frequency? If you're in a low frequency, your vibration, the rate of speed of which you are understanding and comprehending and making sense of something is way slower. It's like running a 10-year-old computer or worse, right? That's like so slow. You type in a word and it takes 10 years for the search results to come up. That's what it means to be in a low vibration, a low frequency. And sometimes we need to be in a low frequency because we need to slow the information down, right? Because when we're in a high frequency, our vibration is super high. So when I start channeling a lot of the galactics, right? Not in a clear channel way like right now, but when I actually do transmissions, energy transmissions, where I go into a semi-trance state, my vibration gets off the charts high. I do things, say things, speak languages, and say words in dialects that I would not have any clue what I'm doing, right? I'm able to process and bring forth way more information. So understanding that is going to be something that you guys needed to hear again, because we have to hear things so many times before it actually registers in our mind, okay? So message of today, question everything. Not from a place of frustration or ego or proving, but from a question of pure curiosity. Why is it? I wonder why. I wonder if. And open the dialogue with people, open the conversation with people. And don't take their reasoning or point of view as the truth, but allow it to be a potential. And just see how much more your mind expands from this exercise alone. All right. So I'm going to head out. I have one more module. I have another module to record in my brand new course, Reclamation, which is now available in the Self Mastery Academy, or you can get it standalone. And this is where we're integrating the parts and pieces of ourselves that we have separated from, right? Coming back into union with ourselves, with our past lives, our galactic lives, our inner children, every part of us, our fear personalities, our protector personalities. We're coming together. We're coming into union. So if that's something that calls to you, you can head over to my website and check that out too. But I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I hope you enjoyed today's message.